Germany is rearming at a speed not seen in generations. And this is not just a reaction, it is a recalculation. For decades, Germany defined its global role through economic strength, diplomatic caution, and military restraint. After the Second World War, Berlin deliberately avoided becoming a dominant military power in Europe. Its influence was financial, industrial, and political, not strategic in the hard power sense. That framework is now shifting. In 2022, Germany announced a historic special defense fund of 100 billion euros. Since then, procurement has accelerated. Advanced fighter jets are being acquired, air defense systems are being modernized, ammunition production is expanding. Military readiness, long criticized as insufficient, has become a national priority. The Bundeswehr is undergoing structural reform. Officially, this transformation is a response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, but strategic shifts of this magnitude are rarely about a single event. They are about systemic change. Before we go further, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It helps this analysis reach more people interested in geopolitics and long-term strategy. Now let's examine the deeper context. For over 70 years, European security has rested on a clear foundation: American military supremacy within NATO. The United States provided the backbone: nuclear deterrence, logistics, global projection capacity. European states, including Germany, operated within that umbrella. Germany could afford restraint because Washington guaranteed security. But that assumption is no longer unquestioned. Inside the United States, political debates increasingly challenge long-term commitments abroad. Strategic attention is shifting toward China in the Indo-Pacific. Budgetary pressures and domestic polarization create uncertainty about future engagement levels. Even if American commitment remains strong, the perception of unpredictability changes strategic calculations in Europe, and Berlin is responding to that uncertainty. If the American guarantee becomes conditional, Europe needs internal weight. Germany is the only European economy large enough to generate sustained military expansion at scale. France possesses nuclear capability and expeditionary experience, but its economic base is smaller. Poland is expanding rapidly, but its industrial capacity remains more limited. The UK, no longer inside the European Union, operates in a different political framework. Germany sits at the center of the European system, economically, geographically, institutionally. If it shifts, the system shifts. This brings us to the first structural implication: internal NATO balance. For decades, Germany was an economic giant but a military middle power. That asymmetry defined intra-European politics. France argued for strategic autonomy. Eastern European states relied heavily on Washington. Germany remained cautious. But as Germany increases spending and readiness, its military weight begins to match its economic weight. That changes conversations inside NATO. Decision-making influence follows capability. Logistics hubs follow industrial capacity. Leadership follows investment. If Germany becomes the central conventional military power in continental Europe, NATO's internal hierarchy evolves. This is not about replacing the United States. It is about reducing dependency. There's a second layer: European strategic autonomy. For years, the concept of a more independent European defense structure faced resistance, particularly from states that feared weakening transatlantic ties. But a stronger Germany inside NATO does not necessarily contradict alliance unity. It can reinforce it. A more capable Europe can share burdens. However, autonomy changes psychology. When Europe relies entirely on Washington, its strategic flexibility is limited. When Europe builds internal capacity, it gains leverage, not only externally, but also internally. Germany's rearmament strengthens the European pillar of NATO. That may stabilize the alliance, but it also redistributes influence. There is also the industrial dimension. Military expansion is not only about weapons, it's about production chains, technological development, supply security, and defense partnerships. Germany's industrial base, already dominant in Europe, becomes even more strategically relevant when aligned with sustained defense spending. Defense contracts reshape industries, joint procurement programs alter political relationships, standardization decisions affect interoperability across the continent. Military transformation becomes economic transformation, and economic transformation feeds political authority. Then there is the geography. Germany sits between Western Europe and the eastern flank of NATO. It is a logistical bridge. Reinforcement routes pass through its territory. Infrastructure investments, rail, roads, depots, increase strategic centrality. As military mobility improves, Germany's geographic position becomes even more critical to European defense planning. This enhances its structural importance inside NATO. Now consider the political culture shift. Post-war Germany developed a deep societal caution toward militarization. Public opinion historically favored diplomacy over force projection. For Germany to commit to sustained rearmament, the internal narrative has changed. This signals elite consensus, and elite consensus signals long-term policy direction. Short-term fear does not produce multi-year structural investment. Strategic anticipation does. So what is Germany anticipating? Possibly a prolonged confrontation with Russia, possibly a multipolar world where power competition intensifies, possibly a scenario in which American engagement fluctuates. Most likely, all of the above. Germany is not preparing for a single event, it is preparing for strategic volatility, and that is the core insight. This transformation is less about immediate reaction and more about positioning for the next 20 to 30 years. When major powers adjust their defense posture, they reveal expectations about the future. Germany expects instability. It expects competition. It expects that economic influence alone will not guarantee security or leadership. That expectation is reshaping Europe. Now consider the broader implication. If Germany becomes the anchor of conventional military power in Europe, France may double down on nuclear and expeditionary leadership. Poland may accelerate its own expansion to avoid marginalization. Smaller European states may align more closely with Berlin for security integration. This creates a new internal equilibrium, not confrontation, but recalibration. And in that recalibration, NATO evolves. It becomes less unipolar inside, more distributed in capability, and potentially more resilient, but also more complex. This is why Germany's move matters far beyond its borders. It is not simply about tanks or aircraft. It is about structure. It is about who carries weight. It is about who shapes decisions. And it is about whether Europe is transitioning from protected partner to co-architect of its own security order. The question then is not whether Germany is rearming, it is whether Germany is redefining its historical role. For 70 years, restraint was its identity. In the coming decades, capability may become its identity. That shift alters expectations across the continent. It influences deterrence, it influences diplomacy, it influences alliance cohesion. And once structural shifts begin, they are difficult to reverse. Germany's transformation is still unfolding, but its direction is clear. Europe is entering a new strategic era, and at the center of that transition stands Berlin. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your perspective in the comments. Is Germany preparing for confrontation or preparing for leadership? The answer will shape the future of NATO.